to the Hookup on Music with your host, Tony Bird.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Hookup on Music. We are back with episode 143. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I am glad that you are here. Wow, we have a lot to cover since we've talked last, but let's jump right into it. What have you been listening to lately? A lot of new albums have dropped. A lot of new albums will be dropping. New songs dropping. What are some of your favorites? Please drop them in the comments below. Um, please share them with me wherever you are. I would really appreciate that. That would be awesome in so many different ways. Also very awesome is that it's a little warmer this week. So let's keep getting warm here with some really awesome tunes, and let's see what we got here to get started first. The Ratboys are back with a brand new album. Now, before we dig into their new album, let's give you a little bit of a background on them. We've talked about them a couple times here on the show, but never too late to go over a couple things that you kind of cool, some little facts. They are from Chicago, Illinois. Um, and they were formed in 2010 with lead vocalist and rhythm guitarist Julia Steiner and lead guitarist Dave Sagan, or Sagan. I think it's Sagan, but if it's Sagan, either one. Very cool that they put out a brand new album. But in 2020, they were joined by Marcus Nucio and Sean Newman on drums and bass and backing vocals, respectively. Steiner and Sagan formed the band while they were attending the University of Notre Dame in South Bend, Indiana, which recently I took a little bit of a tour of that campus. So it's kind of cool to see that they did that. But then they relocated back to the hometown of Sagan's in Chicago in 2015 and released their debut album, AOID. They have been popping up here, there. Their music's really awesome. They've had a producer that you might have been familiar with. His name is Chris Walla. He was a part of Death Cab for Cutie for a while. But they are a very confident, awesome band that definitely you could hear through their music in so many different ways. But again, listening into those backing musicians and what they're putting, and then you put on top the vocals of Steiner, it's really good stuff. Since AOID in 2015, they've released GN in 2017, Printer's Devil in 2020, A Happy Birthday, Rat Boy in 2021. Singing to an Empty Chair is where we seem to find ourselves. Released in February 6th, just recently. And the songs are really good. I listened to them again before even hopping on here and getting started on tonight's episode. I like to listen to the music right before digging in. It makes it a little bit more encompassing. Chris Wall is back producing this album, which again gives you a awesome sound of this quartet. It was recorded in Richland Center, Wisconsin, where they worked through songs. You could hear some really good working through those songs on this album. And if you have not taken the time to listen to this new album yet, please check it out. Again, it's their 6th studio album, Singing to an Empty Chair. It's very there's some emotional pieces to it. There's some ups that really goes up, and then there's some really slower parts. There's some really good guitar playing. I'm really impressed with the guitar playing on this album. There's again, they encompass some experimenting going on this album, which is really cool. Some getting some sounds from different instruments and objects that they would definitely not use. But definitely you could hear the band is definitely expanding. But there was a additional recording at, Rosebud Studios, which was very, very interesting, and also, the band moved to the, record label New West Records for this one. Um, but very interesting though, the composition of into what went into these songs for this album are very interesting too. It kind of comes through with Julia Steiner's experience, her first experience going into therapy, which I thought was very, very interesting. They were guided by something called the empty chair technique, where they imagined a version of that person using those moments as a blueprint for a real conversation. That's kind of how they got into some of that. They're really good stuff though on here. I really like they got some longer pieces, which definitely is really cool when you really want to think about it. You need those longer pieces. But again, um, you're not missing out when you're, digging into the Ratboys and what the Ratboys, what they stand for, which they stand for some really, 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 really good stuff. And again, this new album, is something that, if you have some time, just kicking off with, Open Up, track 3, Light Night, Mountains, all that, really, really good. 8 minutes on Just Want You to Know the Truth. Good stuff on What's Right, track 9. You're what I wanna get to the point here is that you're just not going to, be missing anything of the, variety when you're listening to these guys. The album is a really, really good piece of what they do and what they're looking to do when they do it. Um, but again, taking some time to really, get into some of their, there's pocket piano on the album, synth bass, tambourines and shakers, and definitely some really cool art direction too on the album cover if you, get a chance to really, dig into that. But when you get to see a band and all of their, what they're about and what they do. This new Rat Boys album is definitely um, not going to disappoint you in any way, shape, or form. But check it out because I think, like I can't say it so many times, I think you're going to really, really like it. Um, but let's dig deeper into what we got next here. Let me take a drink here. Mhm. Okay, let's see what we got here next. The one thing I wanted to start today was the positive with the new album. But I have to tell you, there are some losses that we're gonna have to cover tonight, and unfortunately, there are a couple. Um, so let's just get started and start to talk about these unfortunate losses. Um, Loss number 1, loss 1, which is crazy because I just hit the wrong button and I left the broadcast, but, that's kind of about loss 1, which is kinda sad when you really wanna think about it, is loss 1, you have, um a sad passing of William Billy Bass Nelson, who was the bassist of Funkadelic, who were inducted into the Hall of Fame in 1997. But that doesn't mean anything. We don't like to say that. I'm just giving you some of the background here. Willie Nelson was born in Plainfield, New Jersey in 51. And as a teenager, he worked in George Clinton's barbershop, which I think is really, really cool when you think about it. You start working in Mr. George Clinton's barbershop, and then next thing you know, you are being offered a position as a bassist for um, Funkadelic, which I think is just it's cool. These type of stories we go into. But the Parliaments is what they started at, but he's on, Funkadelic, Free Your Mind and Your A will follow or ass will follow, and Maggot Brain, some really, really, really um, good songs there. He left the group though in '71 after disputes with George Clinton. Um, Crazy when you get into these disputes with the leaders of the band, you kind of sit and miss some of the things that some of the more future stuff. But again, He stood up for what he believed in, which is what makes him awesome. And it's just another sad loss. Um, you know what I mean? A lot of these musicians you start to listen to, you don't even know what they're really up to. Um, but he has been name checked by a lot of awesome legendary bassists like John Norwood Fisher of Fishbone and Flea of the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Um, while his early Funkadelic work is being sampled by hip hop artists, he has joined P Funk alumni in the past, and with the '94 release of Out of the Dark under the name OG Funk. He also has served in definitely some touring lineups of the Parliament Funkadelic. He also toured with P-Funk spinoff acts, 420 Funk Mob, and Sons of Funk. Guitar player described Nelson as the Wynton Marsalis of funk, an opinionated player and strong views about what it is and isn't funky. Very, very cool. Um, Maggot Brain is definitely one where you have to listen and definitely listen to some of those tracks and get a little bit more of what I'm talking about. Here at the Hookup on Music, that's always something that's very, very important is take the time to listen and dig into some of these artists, especially some of these artists that are sadly, we're losing, and we need to go back and listen to their songs and their tunes because you know what? The tune said so. I don't know. I just made that up, but I don't know. That is a good idea or a really interesting point altogether in itself. But let us keep continuing and let us go stronger now into what we are going to continue here. Exodus. Okay, we are here tonight to get into a little bit deeper. The ninth studio album by Bob Marley and the Wailers, released in June of 1977 through Island Records, following up from Rastaman Vibration, which is another awesome album. Um, the production, though, is laid back with pulsating bass beats and an emphasis on piano, trumpet, and guitar. Unlike previous albums from the band, Exodus thematically moves away from the cryptic storytelling. Instead, it revolves around themes of change, politics, and freedom. The album is split into two halves. The first half revolves around religion and politics, while the second half is focused on themes of love and keeping faith. I think that is a really awesome explanation into a really great album. We've talked about Bob Marley on here. I could think about in our first year here on the Hookup on film in the middle of the summer, digging deep into Bob Marley because it was beautiful outside. But this Exodus album, if you have any albums or own any vinyl, this is definitely a vinyl I think you should own because of its magic and the special tea in which goes into it, which I just find to be really, really special. If you happen to catch us, the background of tonight's show, which we'll put on right here, is a really cool color, gold with the red that just says Exodus right in the middle, which I find to be very stunning for what this album stands for. When you dig even deeper and into the songs, the tracks, definitely Natural Mystic starts it off. You have like I like the way it kind of creeps in. That's what this album is. It's creeping in. And then that song right there, that Natural Mystic, if you're listening to the lyrics, personally for me, it's a really, really awesome workout album. You're looking for something cool to work out to. I like it to get away from some of the amazing heavy stuff that I always work out to, but you want to put yourself in a different mindset while you're working out. This is a great, great album. You go into so much things to say. Sounds like a really, really upbeat song, but the things that Bob is trying to portray, um, Aston and Carlton Barrett all over this album, as stated, with the bass and the drums just in your face. That's probably one of my favorite aspects of the whole entire album, but they are not lying. The guitar is really, really good, but again, so much things to say is really, really awesome. Guiltiness and the Heathen are a really good 3-4 combo because you get a little bit into more into what we're going for on the album, which is getting some points across on some pretty topics that are deep. The Heathen in itself is another great track. A lot of people often pigeonhole reggae with one certain specific sound. This is a great album to say that it has many sounds. By the time you get to the song Exodus, you definitely know what you're in for. It's a long song, and that's probably why I enjoy it so much. You get all of the instruments getting their opportunity to showcase why they are so important to Bob's band. But Bob himself, the lyrics are very, very important. Um, but are also is very important is just how long this album has lasted through music. A lot of people own Bob Marley's Legend, but the legend really is deep into this album. There is a lot of good tracks. Um, then the album flips over. You're on side two, okay, and everybody is familiar with Jammin' by Bob Marley, which you might not know what that song's about, but that song's about getting close with a loved one. Definitely really cool vibes on that track, especially if you are struggling or you are looking for something to put you into a better mood, but that definitely will do it there. Um, Waiting in Vain then comes up next, which lately has probably been one of my more favorite tracks off of the album. I like all of the tracks, but the meaning behind that song and the way Bob delivers it is, again, it reminds me of some of those classic artists of before Bob in the 60s. Your Sam Cooks and your Marvin Gaye's. He's delivering a lyric that I think is very, very important, but still delivering good stuff. Turn Your Lights Down Low is a really, really good song to, again, turn the lights down low to. Really kind of a quieter track off the album. And then you wind up with the final 1-2 punch of Three Little Birds and One Love, which, if you have not heard either one of those songs, you have been definitely missing out um, on, again, more positivity of just delivering the goods and delivering really, really, really awesome stuff, which Bob does um, on this album through in and throughout. Eddie Kendricks, the falsetto of the Amazing Temptations. We're gonna give him a little bit of a spotlight tonight because you know what? He was awesome in so many different ways. As part of the Temptations, he was one of their lead singers from 61 to 71. Leading on such tracks is The Way That You Do the Things You Do, Get Ready, and Just My Imagination. But also as a solo artist, he had in the 70s some really good tracks with Keep On Truckin' and Boogie Down. But even more interesting is just his life before being in the Temptations. He was born in Alabama. Um, he was one of four, and he had four siblings, which is pretty awesome. Um, he was in a doo-wop group called the Cavaliers, okay, and they began performing. They decided to move for better opportunities into Cleveland, which was crazy. They met their manager and soon moved to Detroit, where the Cavaliers renamed themselves the Primes. Um, there, the Primes were successful in Detroit. They even had a spinoff group called the Primettes, a female spinoff group, later actually becoming the Supremes. Um, but even more interesting is that Kendricks and Paul Williams joined forces with Elbridge Bryant, Otis Williams, and Melvin Franklin um, from Otis Williams and the Distance after two members quit. Found that to be very interesting. But then they became the Elgins. But then, before they signed to the Motown, they become the Temptations. Very, very interesting. Kendricks, during his lifetime, was nominated for 4 Grammy Awards, winning one for Cloud Nine with the Temptations. Very, very interesting. Um, if you've ever caught some of those made-for-TV movies on Kendricks, was very, very interesting. See a little bit more of his background. Um, but in the 80s too, really recording and getting down. Also, Hall & Oates live album, Live at the Apollo, which was very, very interesting. Um, they also, played at Live Aid in Philadelphia. Hall & Oates, have cited, Kendrick and Ruffin specifically, and the Temptations in general, as a major influence. Ruffin started touring with Kendrick as a duo in '85, which was, again, met with really, really awesome, awesome stuff. Um, but as you get older, you definitely think that you're going to, kind of, move out. Um, but also, being part of certain things like Tupac's Above the Rim, that's actually really, really cool. Listening, in my lifetime to quite a lot of Temptations, you could always pick out, Kendrick's vocal. Definitely memorable, definitely a memorable, performance anytime he was performing in so many different ways, which just definitely, really good stuff there. If you can get an opportunity to dig into more of his stuff, you will not be remiss, definitely won't. Lot of good stuff, like I said. Um, the Love Keys album in '81, I've Got My Eyes on You in '83, really, really good stuff. Um, Again, we have another sad passing, Fred Smith of Television, a band that started in '73. Television has awesome, awesome roots, in a lot of different things in which they, have been a part of, but, they, Fred Smith, being a part of the band, it seems to be through all of their indications. They only made 3 albums, Marquee Moon, Adventure, and Television, but his bass playing is left, quite the mark on music. Digging through their catalog, really good stuff. Prove It, Foxhole Venus, Call Me Mr. Lee in '92, but really good stuff. That's sad. It's sad when you open up and you see the passings and the sadness of, Billy Bass or Fred Smith. I cheers to them because you know what? They left behind a quite the legacy of awesomeness that cannot be ignored and will not be ignored, especially here at the Hookup on Music. Cannot, cannot, cannot state that enough. But we must traggle on to another sad passing. I know we're digging through a lot of musicians, but they deserve to be talked about. Greg Brown, founding member of the band Cake and guitar player. His guitar tone, and distortion pedal and everything else that just came along with it is will never be forgotten on tracks like The Distance. Um, I'll always remember Rock and Roll Star as one of the first tracks I heard, him on it. But again, a sad passing, with him. Just passed away February 7th. A lot of stuff going on in February that was not good. Also played a little bit on the Rentals. Matt Sharp, his other project that he's a part of. But that pedal, which was a Guild Starfire 3, a 65, run through a Proco Rat distortion pedal into a silver tone amp is what gave him that amazingness on Fashion Nugget, and but also coming back and Bound Away on the Showroom of Compassion album, which I thought was really, really awesome. Hold on, folks. You know what I mean? We just got more. Chuck Negron passed away, and you may be like, who is Chuck Negron? Chuck Negron was in Three Dog Night. The Three Dog Night, February 2nd, he passed away. A lot of music. One, Easy to Be Hard, Joy to the World, Old Fashioned Love Song, Till the World Ends. Talk about a rock and roller. This guy definitely was a rock and roller. In a lot of different ways. He got together with Barry Oakley, from the Allman Brothers, his wife, who was the wife of John Densmore before. Oh my lord, there's just a lot of rock and roll going on in Mr. Negron's life, but also a solo discography, which you might not be familiar with. Interesting to dig into if you do have some opportunity there. But again, dealing with more loss and more sadness, it just does not stop and it just does not end in so many, so many, so many, so many, so many different ways. And I guess we'll just drop another one. Drummer from Manchester Orchestra. Um, you you can't you just can't you can't say enough when you lose somebody, and you just can't say enough when, especially when it's somebody important, like Tim Very, the drummer of Manchester Orchestra. Um, it's a real shame, and it's a real shame that this band now has to try to figure out the future. After dealing with such loss. But Tim Berry, rest in peace. We will definitely be digging into your catalog, especially considering the sad loss that has happened here. It's just really, really, really awful. Just like it's really, really awful that Neil Young had to cancel some touring recently, which was sad because Elvis Costello and the Imposters were to open. Taking a break and will not be touring Europe. Thanks to everyone who bought tickets. I'm sorry to let you down, but this is not the time. I do love playing live and being with you in the Chrome Hearts. Love Neil. Be well. I hope everything is all right with Neil Young. It's always really sad when you go ahead and you are just dealing and reeling in all of that. But you know, what are you gonna do? You know, what you are gonna do is check out some new album by Angel Dust. Really good stuff there. Did not have that on my radar. Please keep checking out. We got a lot of good stuff, a lot of touring coming up, a lot of new tours. Ali Campbell from UB40 coming to town. It says Ali Campbell featuring UB40. So I was like, oh wow, he's back in the band. No, it's one of those gigs that we talk about. There's two separate incarnations. You got UB40, of course, with Ali Campbell featuring Ali Campbell, who is the original lead singer, and then you just have UB40, which has, unfortunately, Ali Campbell, two of his brothers, who I guess nobody's on speaking terms that they can get back together. And then you have, the drummer, you have the keyboard player, and you have some other people. Unfortunately, there's been some sadness and some passings in the UB40 world, but to have two separate entities going around instead of being one joyous unit, that is very sad and very, very unfortunate if you really want to get down to it and take the time to get into. Also, just recently, Lamb of God, who we talk about quite a bit on the show here, decided that they were going to change their whole entire logo into something else, which is very interesting if you really think about it, to be this far along into the career. Not like Metallica, who does it 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times, but one that you've used. It's really the font that is changing. Very interesting if you have time to go and check that out. What's that mean? Does that turn off fans of the band? It shouldn't. It shouldn't. Um, Going to a concert though and paying for parking when you pay so high for a ticket, that might turn off a fan of a lot of different bands. But that's just something off the top of my mind. Also off the top of my mind is I checked out that Bruce Springsteen movie that they released with Jeremy Allen White playing us Bruce Springsteen, which I thought was an interesting choice. Deliver Me from Nowhere came out last year. I think a lot of people were thinking that Oscars might be in the cards for this one. Unfortunately, it was not. Unfortunately, there just it wasn't as, what's the word I'm looking for? As there I didn't like the part that they had to make up a whole character to give the story a little oomph. I don't like when they have to do that. Watch a lot of movies. They should just roll with the story because I think it was solid enough. We'll give Jeremy Allen white credit that he sang the songs himself, which I thought was cool in its own way to put yourself out there like that. But if you're into movies and you're into biopics, it might be one that might be interesting into your fancy. But anything else that, like I said at the very beginning of the show, that you've been listening to, please, 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 please pass it along to me. You could find me at Hookup on Music, hookuponmusic.com. No, Hookup on Music on the Twitters if you happen to be there. You can leave the comments right there. We can talk at any time. If you would ever like to join the show, please reach out. Would love to have you. Got a lot of stuff. We talk about it all the time being planned. They are like a rocket ship going to take off here. So please keep looking out for that. Look out for everything else that is on the channel. Please look out. Go check out the Shaken Not Stirred podcast. Every episode we talk about the music of James Bond. Very good stuff there. Go check out the At the Show podcast, where we talk about awesome movies like The Thing and Sam Raimi. Also talk about a soundtrack pick of the week. Every week I pick on there. Most recent one was Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which had Pantera on there, which who doesn't love talking about a little bit of Pantera. Also check out It's Getting Drafty. Always cool to check out and see what's going on there with Magnificent Stan. But please, 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 got a lot of good stuff. Appreciate all the work being done by all the penguins at the studios. Yumper. I appreciate everything. I appreciate all of you for just taking the time and listening and to tunes and talking about tunes and listening to any music you're listening to out there. It is appreciative. And before you know it, we will be back. So please stay tuned. And we will talk very soon. So everyone out there, have a good rest of your week. And like I said, this is something awesome. We appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you for listening. Please look out for the audio version wherever you jam.